Well, let's see if that's working.
Welcome to part 2 of 5 Minutes with Robert and Nasir.
Really? The heck? So I'm just going to take a look and see if it looks like we're live. YouTube is still saying it's trying to go, but Facebook is saying we're live now. So let's see what happens here. Oh, there goes YouTube. And we're live again. Hopefully folks will find us here. I guess we could go on the social networks here and post some updated links to the second part of the continuation of the show. Don't know what happened there, but let's see. Let's see if this doesn't work. I'm seeing all green and no red on this one. Why would the services let me down? Was it Facebook, YouTube, Restream, OBS, or all of the above? I don't know, but everything looks green now. So yes, hopefully folks are finding us. Equal to Reality is already back on the YouTube chat. That is super cool. And Amy, I know you right now are posting updated links. Robin has also returned. Too cool. Too cool. Well, as I recall, we left off, we were like gushing over Ryan Reynolds because he's super cool. Nicest guy in the world. I guess if I was a lady, or maybe if I was a guy, I would say he's awfully good looking too, but I wouldn't know anything about that. But yes, 46 years old today, so a happy birthday to Ryan Reynolds, and it is National iPod Day. And the reason I bring that up, well, it amuses me, but also, yeah, obsolete electronics. It gets me kind of heartbroken to think I've got this amazing computer. It still works great, this iPod Touch here, and the click wheel one as well. What do you do with this kind of thing? And then I realized, I think somewhere in storage I've got like a Sony Walkman. You know, I've got cassette players from when we used to do, the music studio was multi-tracking, 4-track cassettes. So I guess there's nothing that unique about it. It just seems like these are so capable, so powerful devices that just, you know, throwing them in the trash or having them properly e-scrapped, it just seems like such a waste. So I'm curious if anybody else feels that. Does that like get to you? And do you have any ideas? What would you do with old equipment like an old iPod Touch?
It's a great question, Roberts. But we also have another question from Equal to Reality, a.k.a. our friend Alex.
Yes.
From across the pond. He says, what line are you using, fiber or copper?
Fiber or copper? We are on copper. I don't think we've got fiber to the home at this point available, where the studio is located. So we should have, I forget what the current upload speed is. I think we just jumped from 20 to 50 megabits, which sounds slow if you're just talking about internet, but these are upload speeds. The download speeds are substantially faster than that. But for this show, yeah, we have never needed more than 10 megabits to broadcast this show before, so it's not an issue of speed. It does seem to be an issue of reliability. Again, I'm seeing all green now. I'm not seeing any dropped frames at all, so hopefully this rebroadcast is working better. Yeah, so with all of that introductory information out of the way, I've got to say, under the category of what are we listening to this week, a couple of bangers, a couple of really good ones. Now, on Thursday, I did a show called Toxic Everything, and that was fun. And I talked about toxic positivity and toxic masculinity, and the idea of toxicness when you take a concept, a valid concept, a good concept, and try to make it a toxic concept. So, for example, crony capitalism. And I made the point that, well, crony capitalism isn't capitalism, just like toxic masculinity isn't really masculinity. But the phrase is used to point out a failure mode or something that can go wrong. And that was a fun discussion. It was an interesting discussion. I was especially appreciative of Mark in the Facebook group, the John Galt line, who shared that out.
Yes.
Because he was very complimentary.
Mark Monroe.
Yes.
Great guy, actually. Great guy, for sure. And
what I didn't know was that the day before that, on Barry Weiss's podcast, Honestly, she had a stand-in host, Mary Catherine Ham, and Mary Catherine Ham interviewed Richard Reeves, the author of Boys and Men, Why the Modern Male is Struggling, Why It Matters, and What to Do About It, under the title, Why We Must Save Our Boys. Now, if any of you feel like I do, the assault on masculinity,
Even I feel it.
even Amy feels it.
Yes.
As we do everything that we can to erase the last vestiges of sexism, that just sounds so bad. I mean, the kind of sexism deserves to be fought. Some things have swung in the other direction, and some things have just gotten downright ugly.
Yeah.
The assault on masculinity and gender in general.
Yeah.
And this podcast, this episode, does an outstanding job of that. And I kind of wish I had listened to it before I did my Thursday podcast, because that might have been even better if I'd heard it ahead of time. So there is a link to it in the show notes. If you look in the show notes, you'll see Honestly Podcast, Why We Must Save Our Boys. That is worth listening to this week if you get a chance. If you're like me, you're doing your chores, you're doing whatever you're doing, and listening to podcasts, take that one in. I think you're going to like it.
Yeah.
The other thing, in the category of what are we listening to this week, I was listening to an episode of Lewis Howes' School of Greatness. This is a former athlete who kind of got knocked out of being an athlete by an injury, and he's since become a lifestyle entrepreneur. Meaning he's essentially a motivational podcast guy. And he did an episode called 10 Happy Habits Successful People Do Differently. Now, what I liked about this episode is he usually has a guest on to talk about whatever the topic is, but in this case, he did it strictly from his own experience. It was kind of interviewing himself. And I liked it. He did a great job. But listening to it, I couldn't help think, if I was going to do top 10 list of happiness tips, I would have done it differently.
You'd cut it down to 5.
I'd cut it down to 5,
right?
So that even if you don't write them all down, you can walk away with all 5 of these sitting in your hip pocket to pull out whenever you need them. And really the best ones are the top 5. Now, you could go to any of the playlists that I've put on youtube.com/Robert Nasir and get a list, but it would take you hours to listen to. And today I just want to throw 5 out there just for fun. And these are the top 5 that I came off with off the top of my head. I don't know if I could do any better than this, though.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw these ahead of time, right? You looked through my notes?
Yes.
Good. Then you won't be surprised anyway.
No,
You'll be like,
won't.
Oh, no, same old Robert stuff.
No.
And I would love to hear your feedback in the chat on this. Top 5 tips for happiness.
All right, here it is, everybody. Pay attention.
Ready? Think, be present, practice gratitude, take ownership, be loyal. Thank you for joining 5 Minutes with Robert Nasir. Okay, maybe that was a little fast. But if you can remember that much, once I go over it, have these in your pocket to pull out whenever you need them. My top tip for happiness is think. And under think, first and foremost, apply reason, rationality, logic, the power of your mind to your life.
Mm-hmm.
People sometimes say, well, you're an advocate of Ayn Rand's philosophy, objectivism. What's your shortest description? What's the quickest way you can put it? And it's 4 words. 4, 1, 2. Yeah, there. Let's see if I can make my fingers work. The coffee is working. This is not decaf tonight. Think rationally, act accordingly. 4 words, the whole philosophy. Okay, obviously that's over-essentializing, but when somebody, pulls that trick of, well, what's the shortest way you can describe this? And that's my philosophy too. Think rationally, act accordingly. So my top tip for happiness is be focused, intentional, purposive, rational, logical. Think.
Can I add something to that?
You can add much to it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, the next part of that is to act, to gather data. Sometimes the only way that you can gather knowledge is by taking some kind of action that is uncomfortable to you.
Ooh.
And doing it kind of you could call it trial and error, but really it's data gathering. It's trying to understand the causality of a situation, trying to understand what it takes to do something is to try it out and fail at first, but now you have that information about exactly what you need to do to get it done, to have success in it, or at least get to that point where you're a little bit more confident in knowing that you have that knowledge. You may still need to gather knowledge in the future. You may need to keep acting in a way that is that takes courage. But yeah, think of it. Sometimes action is definitely required for gathering knowledge. So
I love that. I love that you're taking tip number 1, which is think, and adding that. And it reminds me of a quote from Robert Heinlein, who says, "Again and again and again, what are the facts? Shun wishful thinking. Ignore divine revelation. Forget what the stars foretell. Avoid opinion. Care not what the neighbors think. Never mind the unguessable verdict of history. What are the facts? And to how many decimal places?" And I love that fact orientation and the idea that, yes, if you're going to think, bring in the data. Go out there, get the information. Yes, be in touch with reality. And nothing else is rational.
Yeah.
So yes,
And
think, be focused.
To Apollo, who says, "I overthink" in the YouTube chat, sometimes you need to act. And it's hard, and it's not comfortable,
Yes.
but sometimes you have to do it.
Well, that's why I include purposive.
Mm-hmm.
Always know your purpose. In any given moment, know what your purpose is. We've done whole shows on purpose. But in any given moment, you should be able to say, what am I doing and why? Why am I doing this thing? Why am I doing a podcast right now? Lets me reach out to people I really like and put some of my ideas out there and get feedback from them. Mm-hmm. And I'm working to expand the podcast and make it bigger and have a broader reach. And I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. And even if you're just on the phone calling your mother, know what you are trying to accomplish. Well, I know what I'm trying to accomplish. I know what a phone call. No, you don't. Or rather, you should be able to say, yes, I do know. I am trying to establish a connection, let her know that I care about her, get some of that back myself, fill my heart a little bit with Mom, mm-hmm. and let her know about the letter I sent or the bill that I paid or the thing that I needed to tell her about. Always know your purpose. So if you find yourself overthinking, if you've gotten in the habit of always knowing, no matter what the thing is, always knowing your purpose, it's a little easier to say, oh, I'm churning. I'm like a hamster on a wheel. I'm not achieving my purpose. This thinking is not rational. It's not logical because it's not serving the ends. Mm-hmm. It would be like telling a story that doesn't tell the story you want to tell. So yes, I think it's better to overthink than to underthink. But if there's no action, it's not rational. Yeah. That's not reasoned thinking. So know your purposes. And that's why I say think, be focused, intentional, purpose. Know your intentions. Be intentional.
Yeah, and if I can just add another point, there are specific contexts in life that are not habitual, that are not automatized. It's not driving a car. There are specific things like, for instance, finding a new job, updating your resume, doing research on companies that you want to apply for, sending out a whole bunch of resumes sort of blindly and accept the fact that it's a numbers game. And so doing all sorts of uncomfortable things like that. Dating, very uncomfortable for some people, but it's the only way you can gain knowledge and understanding how to have a relationship is to practice. And sometimes you think to yourself, well, I'm just jumping into the frying pan, into the fryer, and it's very uncomfortable. But the only way you can collect that knowledge to think about it, to understand it, is by doing it.
Yes. Execute. Take action. Incidentally, Ian had noticed I opened up with a real quick version, and he said, tip number 1, talk quickly. And it's funny because somebody else named Ian, there's a magician named Robert Ian, so his last name, who once said something like, I have a lot to convey to you tonight, so I'm going to be talking quickly. I need you to listen quickly, and we'll get it done. So it's something, I don't know, I've reinterpreted it in my own words this is 30 years ago I heard this. But yes, I'm going to talk quick, and I need you to listen quick, because I've only done tip number 1. So we'll do this real quick. Tip number 1 was think. Tip number 2 is presents. What do you mean presents? Send presents. Throw money at this show. No, presents. Practice awareness, mindfulness. Be here now. You know, you have a body, you have a mind, and both are receiving near constant stimulation. It can be a challenge to rein all of that in. And in a way, you don't want to rein it in. Don't repress yourself. Really feel it all, but feel it all, experience it all. Presence. Be here now. If that sounds really, really woo, fair enough. I think we need to do a whole show on presence. Some people say be in the moment, which I think is a little limiting, but if that works for you, that's great.
Well, you know, I mean, when it comes to experiencing your life, your being, your life is at an end in itself, as it were. Now is really the best time to experience it.
Yes. We've done some fun mindfulness exercises before, and we'll do them again. You know, sit up straight, open your eyes a little wider. Wherever you're sitting or standing, whatever you're doing right now, you can even do this while driving a car. Sit up straight, open your eyes a little wider. Now here's what I want you to do. This is different than anything I've ever had you do before. Eyes forward. Do not avert your eyes. Pick a spot right in front of you and look at it. Now, see what's on, don't move your eyes. See what's on your left. Don't move your eyes. See what's on your right. I've got some artwork. Oh yeah, those are Amy's originals from her college courses. And on my right, I'm not moving my eyes. I see planters, a whole terrarium set up there by the window. I see the light. It changes your state to activate your peripheral vision. To not move your eyes, but realize you've got a whole field in front of you, and most of us only ever focus on that 10%. Presence is something you can exercise, something you can increase, but all I need to do is remind myself, am I present? Am I really here? And it magnifies experience. It makes any minute that you live through worth 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like getting more oomph out of every moment.
Right. It can also calm you down if you're having anxiety and you feel like you're just swimming around and you know,
Yes.
you're tumbling and twirling and you can't get a grasp on anything particular. Yeah.
Or you just can't concentrate.
Right.
Because increasing your presence increases your focus. Takes all that extra bandwidth that is also thinking about what you've got to do next and what you said to your girlfriend earlier and what you wish was happening right now and what's going on tomorrow. And you don't have any bandwidth for that when you magnify your presence. So, number 1, think. Number 2, presence. Number 3, gratitude. You are surrounded by miracles, not least of which is yourself. An attitude of gratitude. Not an empty one, not be thankful, and somebody slaps you, say, thank you, please, sir, may I have another, like Animal House. What a great movie, Animal House. I miss John Belushi.
Yeah.
But yes, practice the attitude of gratitude. You are surrounded by things that you may have bought, and you should be proud that you bought them. You should be proud you earned the money to have them or took the action it took to bring them into your life. But I couldn't have made this computer myself. Hell, I couldn't have even made this iPod Touch myself. I am surrounded by miracles. There's a piano on the other end of the studio there, so I don't mean just technology. I mean craftsmanship. I mean miracles, amazing stuff.
Yeah.
And I've been an amazing guy. It's not that I don't deserve it. It's not that I haven't earned it. It's not that I didn't trade my effort for it. Still, alone on a deserted island with Amy, you know, I mean, we'd find things to do, but we wouldn't have all this stuff. Boy, would we find things to do.
Yeah.
But we would not have a piano.
Yeah.
We would not have a computer, and we would not have a connection over these wires, whether they're fiber optic or copper, to all of you good people.
We wouldn't even have one album to take with us that is our favorite that we would never get sick of forever.
Yeah. Well, even if we could, what are your, I'm going to mention this at the end of the show, what are your top 5 desert island picks? Well, the record player is not going to work. Solar, I don't have solar cells to drive the record player. Anyway, you get the idea.
You just have those wax cylinders from the 1800s.
Oh,
from
yeah, that's
Menlo
true. You
Park.
get the mechanical and turn it at just the right speed.
Oh,
Do you remember that when you, like a record player, you would try to turn it with your finger at just the right speed?
I know.
That was
and
hard.
It actually played, and you're like, oh, I'm getting it.
Yeah.
But before you go on with the attitude of gratitude, I wanted to talk about a book that I listened to on audio just recently.
Yes.
It's Tom Felton, a.k.a. Draco Malfoy's new book.
Tom Felton wrote a book?
Yes.
What did he write?
It's called Beyond the Wand.
Beyond the Wand,
It
okay.
rhymes.
Life after being in the Harry Potter movies.
Yeah, so it's a nice memoir, and there's a lot of unexpected information in it. But you could just tell that writing it was very cathartic for him and very healing for him. He went through a lot, with regard to, alcoholism and things like that. And
rockstar syndrome.
Yeah.
No guardrails.
Well, he moved to L.A. and everybody became a yes man or yes woman to him.
Yep. No
and
guardrails.
then his reality was warped, and it was just... And then he just felt like he lost himself, which he did. And, so I'll just say this. One of the parts of his book talks about gratitude, and it talks about, being willing to get help, being willing to get over your anger and find help, get help, and accept help. And also, I think he said something along the lines which, when you are in a despairing situation, a very desperate situation, you're extremely down about yourself and life and everything, one of the best things you can do is try to find gratitude around you, and try to be grateful for something around you. Try to be inspired perhaps by somebody or something around you.
Yes.
It is truly the
powerful.
It's
cathartic.
Truly
It's magic.
powerful.
And I know people who take gratitude as, I don't want to feel like I'm in debt or I'm unworthy. The kind of gratitude we're talking about is the gratitude of celebration and admiration.
Yeah, but also accepting help when you need it.
Yes.
Yeah, he was talking about that. He I won't give away the story because it's a really interesting story. Very engaging story, and a very engaging memoir. Very well written. But yeah, he came across some people who he didn't expect would help him, but they ended up helping him, and in ways that he could even imagine at the time. So
excellent.
Yep.
So number 1, think. Number 2, presence. Number 3, gratitude. Number 4, ownership. All of the Ayn Rand fans, all of my fellow objectivists out there are saying, yes, ownership, property rights. Well, yes, but extreme ownership. Take ownership of everything in your life. Take responsibility, not as a duty, but as an opportunity. Own every situation, even the bad ones, especially the bad ones, because when bad things happen to you, the worst thing you can say is, oh, I don't own that. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm helpless. No. If it happened to you, at least own the relationship of that thing to you and say not, what's the use, but what can I do about it? I think I might have stole that line from Ayn Rand.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh, no, that's Leonard Peikoff. It's in Opar.
Oh, okay.
And it's part of the benevolent universe premise. A man of ability doesn't say, what's the use, but what can I do? And that is what you want. Number 4, always, in every way that you can. And you can do this with other people. You can take ownership of not their problems, but of your relationship to their problems. This is tricky. It needs to be done graciously. It needs to be done carefully. You don't want to become an enabler. You don't want to violate boundaries. But you have enormous power when you take ownership. When you say, okay, what can I do? And that's going to take me right to number 5. Number 1 was think. Number 2 is presence. Number 3 is gratitude. Number 4, always practice extreme ownership. And number 5 is loyalty. We did an episode called Good Company, and we've riffed on this many times. And I steal that from the title of a Queen song, one of the songs Brian May wrote. in which the chorus lyric is, "Take care of those you call your own and keep good company." So the one show that I did this week that I haven't mentioned yet, but with James Valiant, I did an episode called "Do We Need Other People?" Like, do we even?
Like, totally. Like, do we even really?
Well, when we talked to Emily
Yes.
on the Emily Talks series,
Yes, Emily.
where she interviewed us, I don't have that link in the show notes, but I have it on the Thursday show because I did recommend that interview. Look for us, you'll find that interview. And Emily was great fun to talk to her. But yes, I made the point that people are the best. And she mentioned the line, see if you've heard this line before. To say I love you, one must first say the I. Well, of course, that comes from The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. But I had fun with James Valiant, as I mentioned, because I pointed out that that expression, I love you, it's massive. And a lot of us treat it like, oh, it's overblown, and you're in a relationship, and that point where you say I love you to them, yeah, there's a lot of tension around it, and I don't know what it even means, and I don't know what love is, and that expression, I love you, the reason why it's so powerful, the reason why it's a landmark expression in any relationship, but also why it's so enormously empowering to carry those words with you, say them and mean them, is because it's you, it's that person you are. The physical stuff and the mental stuff and the spiritual stuff, there will never be another person like you in the world. And you are the center of the universe, or at least the center of your universe. You are the star of this show. When you say I, that's everything. I know that sounds solipsistic. It's everything that matters to you. And when you say love, love is the emotional response to values and the expression of values. Values, what does that mean? Everything, anything that matters. The whole idea of something mattering, of something having value significance. And when it matters enough that it affects your overall joy in living, your joie de vivre, your passion for life, that is love. And you, when you say, I love you, what are you saying to somebody when you say, I love you? You're saying, I love that which is you, your spirit, your soul, and your sense of humor, and your mind, and your body, and the things that you do in the world, and the way that you are, and the way that you show up for life.
Yeah.
I've told you before, and now I'm pointing at the camera, which means I'm pointing at you, the listener. I love you. And I mean that. I value you, and I want to know that the people who engage with us during these shows are doing well, that you're okay, and that we're giving you something that you're enjoying, that you're having fun with this, or taking away some ideas that have some value to you. It matters.
We do have a question or a comment.
Yes.
So Robin on YouTube is apprehensive, and he feels that he doesn't want to come across that way in terms of asking other people for help.
Mm-hmm.
That it's he finds that difficult. I thought about that for a moment, and there's a really excellent quote by Ayn Rand. If you've ever heard of her, Ayn Rand.
I thought it was Anne Rand.
And it's in Atlas Shrugged. It's
Yes.
The sight of an achievement is the greatest gift a human being could offer others. Now think about that for a minute in terms of the context of asking good people for help. You will find that good people will jump at the opportunity, because it's not just that they want to help you and say, how much alms can I throw at you, as how much self-sacrifice can I offer, blah, blah, blah. No. It has nothing to do with that. Completely different context here. Totally different worlds. What they're doing is that they are jumping at the opportunity to show the best of themselves. They want to show you what they've achieved, what they think, how they process. And that is how they help you. So don't think of it as a self-sacrificial thing or that you're a burden on them if you're asking for help. Think of it as this is giving other people the opportunity to show off their light within themselves to you and offering it to you as an inspiration or as practical knowledge or as encouragement, whatever it is. It's that is a spiritual trade. When you're asking people for help, it can be one of the greatest spiritual trades ever, especially if you are honest with yourself and you are open to help. It's one of the greatest things ever.
Yes. I had mentioned weekends and holidays recently and my advice on birthday presents and handling celebrations. And I made the point that if you feel a burden when it comes to gift giving and gift buying, going out and finding something for somebody, you can share that information with people and you can let them know, yeah, I'm really having a hard time finding something that I know you'll enjoy. And they may give you advice, or they may say, well, don't buy me too much, or just buy me something you would like. Or they might tell you exactly what they would like. But if they care about you, or if they have any self-respect at all, here's what they don't want. They don't want the holiday to be a burden for you. They don't want you to be unhappy with the idea of buying them a present. They don't want that. The kind of people, because they are out there, the kind of people who think they better buy me a decent present. Who the hell cares what those kind of people think and whether they're happy with the present you got? I know life is more complicated than that because sometimes those people are family or peers, people you can't just walk away from, but you can't let that kind of stuff get to you.
It's the same kind of person who says, don't you know who I am?
Yeah. And the reason I mention
you're
that...
You're yourself? I don't know, you're somebody...
Yeah.
That's up to you to figure out, mister.
Yeah. The best way to disarm them is, I don't know and I don't care. What's the difference between ignorance and apathy? I don't know and I don't care. There's a great song by the band Fear, I Don't Care About You. That's when you dig out that song.
Oh boy.
But my point is, and I pointed this out with Emily, is you can take any of these situations and reverse them. You're thinking, I don't want to be a burden on people, which kind of puts them up on a pedestal or puts you down here. But imagine if the situation was reversed. And I'm sure it has been. You have been the person, whether you're dealing with other adults or family, or if you're dealing with children or people on the job who are less experienced than you. And people have come to you for help. Or you've just been in an opportunity to offer somebody a graciousness.
Yeah.
Did you resent it? Did you think, oh, why don't they know this stuff? Oh, I got to deal with these stupid people. Did you feel any of that? Or did you just say, oh, how cool. I can do that. I can fix this. I can take care of this for you. Yes, I would be happy to show you how to do that thing. Trust me when I say, even if you don't feel that, a lot of us out there do. When I was an IT technician, if I could solve a problem nobody else could solve, that's a joy. It's like completing a jigsaw puzzle or doing completing some task that was really challenging. I know there are people out there who are cocky and they're like, I just want to show off. I want to show how good I am. But it's not even that. It's just that feeling of efficacy, that ability of saying, yes, I can make that happen. I can do that for you. And even if it's easy, if it is just buying somebody lunch, it doesn't have to be some great ability required. So if you would enjoy doing that for somebody, trust me when I say, the better people out there, they will enjoy doing it for you. Always be willing to flip it. Always be willing to say, what if it was the other way around? Oh, okay, now I can see why I shouldn't be too shy or shouldn't be embarrassed or shouldn't feel like... We all do. I feel that. I am totally an introvert and I get that. But yeah, try flipping it around.
I've had to flip that around. I know we're coming up against the hour, and I know that we lost a little time with the streaming service going bonkers.
Yeah, I feel like we owe people an extra 5 or 10 minutes.
So, if you don't mind, have you completed your list? I'm sorry.
All I need to do is the wrap.
Oh, okay.
So just to review, number 1, think. Number 2, presence, be there. Number 3, gratitude. Number 4, ownership. Always take ownership, extreme ownership. And number 5, loyalty. Take care of those you call your own and keep good company. It's easier to be good and good to people if you are with good people. Get the toxic ones out of your life.
Yes.
People are just the best. I always quote the line from Harold and Maude, which I think I'm misquoting it, but the way I remember it is, I like people. They're my species.
Yes. Oh, and by the way, congratulations to Equal to Reality, a.k.a. Alex, who got, I think he was the one who said he got his toxic uncle out of his life.
Oh, good. Good.
Good. No more awful family get-togethers with a toxic uncle.
You owe them nothing. And I know there's logistical issues. It's not always easy to get the toxic people out of your life, but you certainly have the right to do that as much and as quickly as you can.
Absolutely.
Oh, and I'm going to add on a number 6 here, just because Petya mentioned it. And it's such great advice, even though it's not one of my top 5. Maybe it should be. She says, actions always deliver more than you ever imagined. There's an old expression that I used to be really bad at. I used to be the kind of guy who would say, yes, I will get that for you. Yes, I will do that for you. Yes, I will deliver. But in the IT field, you end up overburdened and things fall through the cracks and you end up late with this project or you forget this thing and have to be asked a second time. And it took me a long time to learn to under-promise and over-deliver. And Petya, you're reminding me of that. Yes, under-promise and over-deliver versus, over-promising and then under-delivering. Telling people they can have the moon and then all you give them is, I don't know, what's less than the moon? Pluto. We pick on Pluto for not being a planet anymore. But yes, anyway, I appreciate that because it makes me think, yes. I would certainly put that somewhere in my list of top advices. Always under-promise and over-deliver. Always give more than they expect.
Right. Which can come off as being, I'm just going to not give them so much so that I look good in the end. That's not what it is. For me, it goes along the lines of a man has to know his limitations. So you need to be realistic about your ability, not just your abilities and your skills and your awesomeness and all of that wonderful stuff, but you need to bake into your strategy in terms of carrying out a task or a project, things that will come up that were unexpected. So you have to kind of like buffer it, put a buffer in there, as they say. And so, yeah, that's in terms of being honest with yourself and being realistic and reality oriented. Under promise, because something might come up. Maybe you won't. Maybe you'll be like 100% awesome, and everything outside of your control is going to be great as well. But bake in a little bit of cushion there just in case, because you don't want to get somebody's hopes up unrealistically, and you want to be realistic about it. But I want to just tell a little story about a little challenge I got through this week. I had so many ups and downs, but a lot of really big wins this week, and I'm really proud of myself. And one of them was that so I've been on this diet and exercise program for the last couple of weeks, and I told my trainer this week, I said I have a big flamenco performance coming up this Friday, and I cannot have jelly legs, so don't overtrain me. Well, she kind of did overtrain me in the sense that she had me do these really big, like, high jumps. So you jump up, but you make sure you try to get your knees as far up off the ground as possible and get close enough to your chest. But she had us do this for 40 seconds continuously in three reps.
Well, that can't possibly injure your legs before a dance performance.
That can't possibly injure me, right? But no, I injured my right leg. And it felt like it was like at a car crash, like it was like multiple minor injuries all throughout my leg from my lower back to my foot. Oh, it was great. It was a barrel of laughs, I tell you. And so I had to really be reality focused. I would be really, really, really focused about what my limitations are, what I could do to baby my leg, take Epsom salt baths, stretch, warm up, and really listen to my body very closely. And that's what I did. And you know what? I pulled it off. I actually, we arrived at the destination, which was 2 hours away in Kalamazoo, Michigan, where we performed in this wonderful little K through 5 school for this bilingual school. It was English-Spanish speaking school. Everybody spoke bilingually, and it was great. And it felt so very relevant because they were speaking Spanish, and obviously flamenco is a Spanish dance, and everybody loved it, and the performance was quite good. So, I had to put a lot of worry aside, a lot of awfulizing aside, and I had to just kind of focus on what the facts are, and that I will do good as long as I'm not in terrible pain. Adrenaline helped as well, actually. Adrenaline actually decreases your pain level, so that was something I wasn't expecting that actually worked out for the best. By the way, my leg is doing a lot better today.
Yes.
But I'll tell you, I went in there not having the knowledge. So it was Wednesday that I injured my leg. It was Friday that was my performance.
It was really iffy, how that was going to go.
It was extremely iffy. Talk about not having enough data and having to act to gain more data. And act in a way that was stressful and constantly stressful, frustrating, and very uncertain. So I'm just going to give myself a couple pats on the back for that. And so I got through it.
Yes, Apollo Zeus is talking about super slow. Well, maybe not literally super slow. There's 10 different variations on the idea of TTF, train to failure. Mm-hmm. And it's all good. It's what Thomas Bisson bases a lot of his work around, too.
Yeah.
Do the hardest thing you can do as slowly as you can, and you don't need a lot of reps.
Right.
You just need to push yourself to your limits.
Well, that's why I should have said no to my trainer when she asked me to do that.
Yes.
Because I can train, and what I love to do is I love to, lift weights, and you bring it up, but when you come down, I just go half as fast. So I go slower.
Good.
When I come down.
Well, slower the better.
Yep.
It's all good. So, my Post-it note for the week actually says, I'll pull this out early here, like anything's early at this point, give your all, at least once a day. And this is my reminder to myself to do exactly that, that which we're talking about in exercise. But in any domain, in any particular domain, I find I need to push myself more, at least once a day, test my limits and see how far I can go. And this could be in terms of exercise, which I will be doing, but also in terms of just thought, and in terms of presence and doing these awareness increasing exercises. It's something that I need, so I'm going to put this up on my bathroom mirror. So when I see it every morning, it will remind me that over the course of the day, I need to give my all. I've got more in me than I'm delivering, even though I am delivering. Could do more, and that's what I want this week to look like. And it fits in with the particular week that I'm having because, well, among other things, I'm going to continue my morning Twitter aphorisms and quotes. So those of you who are following me on Twitter, twitter.com/Robert Nasir, you're seeing that every morning I post a picture of the clock to show that I really am getting up before 6 a.m. every morning and taking in my morning routine, which includes posting an aphorism. I will also be posting these 5 tips for happiness. So if you missed them, well, they're already in the show notes, but for anybody who hasn't already heard, anybody who just wants to go on this journey with me, I will be posting 1 tip per day, Monday through Friday, until I get all 5 of them out there with some additional thoughts. And that's going to be fun too. That is my homework for the week. My Post-it note for the week says, give your all at least once a day. My homework for the week is post my 5 tips. Now, if you don't want to do this, but you want a homework assignment, I would say pick any top 5. In fact, I should have posted a link to the film High Fidelity. Great fun with John Cusack and Jack Black. If you know the film, you know it's pervaded with, or if you know the original book, pervaded with top 5s. A list of your top 5 favorite, and then throughout the movie, there's all these different ones. Pick a top 5. What are your top 5 desert island films or record albums? If you had to spend a week alone, what would be your top 5, whatever it is? You'll be seeing that on the social networks. You'll be seeing that from me this week. And thank you for sticking around. We still got a lot of action in the chat, which I've been working to keep up with here. Great fun. Jim Ashley incidentally mentions in the film Harold and Maude. If you've never seen it in widescreen, apparently the letterbox or the pan and scan edition of it cuts off something interesting on one side of one of the scenes. Now I'm wondering exactly what he's talking. I'm sure that I must have seen it in widescreen. When I watch it, it's usually from a DVD I've gotten. I'm 98% sure that is widescreen. So it makes me wonder, what is it that he's referring? Maybe he'll give a hint in the chat there. Harold and Maude is a very, very quirky film. I've recommended it before, but it's one of those films I mentioned. I always give that caveat. It's a very unusual film. If you're no nonsense, if you've ever used the expression dirty hippie in your life, and it's not that the film is full of dirty hippies, but if you're that kind of person, you might not enjoy the film.
Have I seen this?
Yes.
Because I've definitely used the word dirty hippie before.
Yes. It's a film about a young, wealthy man. He's just coming into, I believe, college age. Lives with an overbearing mother who's trying to get him out of his obsessions, find nice girls, settle down, get married. His affectation is he keeps finding really dark things to focus on and staging fake suicides to shock his mother and the rest of his family. Sound familiar?
I don't know. I'd probably have to see some still frames of it. Let me see.
Yeah, the actor is Bud Cort. He was very young at the time the film was made. He might have been 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. And his co-star was Ruth Gordon.
No, I've never seen it.
You've never seen Harold and Maude?
This is true. This is right. This is true.
You just killed me. So
don't fake self-immolation.
No, it's a film I recommend with caveats. But yes.
Huh.
And it's got a bittersweet ending, but it carries the freight. It pays its dues. So the ending is appropriate to the film. And it's just one of those films that had an impact on me. Whenever I post a list of movies that had an impact on my life, that really should be in the list.
Yes, it incorporates elements of dark humor and existentialist drama.
Yes, it's a mixed case. It definitely is. Yeah, you don't want to read too much about it ahead of time.
No, I'm not.
Yes, great use of the music of Cat Stevens in that movie as well.
Oof.
Good stuff. So yes, I'll take a look and see if Jim gave us any clues on what the scene is I should be watching out for the next time that I watch it. So with that said, thank you for joining us.
Yes,
sorry about the technical, no idea what caused it, but I'll apologize anyway.
It was
even
ghosts.
though it wasn't my fault.
It was ghosts.
Not every apology means it was my fault. Don't be afraid to apologize. I know people who don't apologize. They immediately go to, well, it wasn't my fault. We went on a protest once. Washington, D.C., we're carrying protest signs, and we're walking down the street with a group of us, and single file down the sidewalk. And at one point, Amy's walking, and somebody, the bottom of their protest, the stick, the shaft of their protest hits the back of her foot.
Ow.
And she's like, ow! And the person carrying the sign, did he say, I'm sorry?
I turned around to him, and I looked at him, I'm like, ow! And he's like, I didn't mean to do that.
No apology, because why would you apologize if you didn't mean to? How can you be
I
held
didn't
morally
mean
capable
to
if it
do
wasn't a
this.
volitional action?
If you're just listening, I'm punching the air right now.
Yes, when I say I'm sorry that our earlier feed got cut off and we had to restart the show, it's not that I did some mean thing or some neglectful thing that caused it to fail. As far as I can tell, it wasn't my fault, but I apologize anyway. And part of that is just to show my gratitude for you folks who came back and watched the rest of the show. And of course, when people hear the podcast of this later, because we will be on Apple and Spotify and Google Podcast, all the podcast platforms, they didn't go through all of that. And I'll probably clip out, all the messed up parts. But I thank you. I apologize for the trouble. The universe shouldn't be like that. And I take responsibility because, number 4, always take ownership, extreme ownership. And I will do what I can, if there's anything I can do, to make sure that doesn't happen again. Thank you for joining us. I hope you all have an outstanding Sunday night. If you want to suggest ideas for the show, put them in the chat. Put them in the 5 Minutes with Robert Nasir Facebook group. If you want to support the show, and thank you to those of you who already do, go to robertnasir.com. You'll see links to Patreon, or for a one-time contribution, PayPal. Either way, you're in our hearts, you're in our soul. I know those are Rod Stewart lyrics, but I really mean it. And finally, as always, we wish you success. We wish you happiness. We wish you massive flourishing, flowering, and use these 5 tips to get all of the happiness that you so richly deserve. And as always, we wish you love.